Memorial Day in Colorado Springs. Barbecues are sizzling, kids are playing outside, and parents all over the city are enjoying a much-needed day off.
Everybody was out enjoying their holiday weekend. The weather was nice. People were out planting flowers and walking their dogs.
In her house on East Maple Street, homemaker Lisa Jones and her son are getting ready to leave.
Michael, are you ready? Put your shoes on, they're on their way, okay?
Lisa's friend, Chandra, should be there any minute to pick them up. They're headed to a birthday party for Chandra's son.
They were all excited to get together. Lisa and Chandra, the kids and the boyfriend. So everybody was all geared up, everybody was all happy and excited.
But their enthusiasm is suddenly cut short.
It sounded like, a huge, horrible wreck and an enormous crash. And then the scream, that high, blood-curdling scream.
Oh my gosh.
Lisa came out of the house knowing there had been some kind of big crash, but never in a million years did she expect to see her friend flat on the ground.
Lying battered and bloody in the street is Chandra Murr, still conscious but seriously injured.
You're gonna be okay.
Chandra's shell-shocked boyfriend, Brian Simmons, is trying to stop the bleeding from multiple wounds to her body.
She had extreme damage to her torso, the legs, and abdomen area. A lot of blood loss.
It was clear that a car had hit her.
Sandra!
Lisa tries to comfort her friend, but Chandra begs her to help in a different way.
The kids! Where's the kids? They're in the car.
She was calling to her friend Lisa to please keep the kids away. She didn't want the kids to see her like that.
Will you get them? Yes. Please.
Chandra's 2 young children are just a few feet away.
Those kids were put in the horrible situation of witnessing their mother being critically injured.
They were kicking windows, they were trying to open the doors, they were doing everything they could to try to get to her.
Lisa ushers Chandra's children into her house, away from the horrific accident.
Look this way.
Minutes later, Chandra is on her way to the nearest trauma center, accompanied by her boyfriend, Brian Simmons. Across town, Lt.Joe Kenda is letting off some steam at the firing range when he gets an urgent call.
When I first got this call, and I said, well, it's a hit-and-run accident, traffic is there, but they want you there. And I thought, really? If traffic wants me there, they have a reason. Maybe this isn't a wreck. Let's go see.
Moments later, Kenda arrives on East Maple Street and finds a crowd of spectators.
Because it was the holiday, everybody in that neighborhood is outside when this event occurs. So when I get there, it is a tsunami of information.
Gentlemen.
Hello, sir.
I see traffic's here. Where was homicide call?
We have a victim transported to the hospital in critical condition.
Kenda learns that the victim, 23-year-old Chandra Murr, has been rushed to Memorial Hospital and is undergoing emergency surgery.
She has severe lacerations to the left leg and hip area. She has crushing injuries to her chest. They thought that her leg was near the point of amputation, so her condition was grave.
The scene has all the hallmarks of a standard hit and run.
When the car runs away after having hit someone, the usual immediate answer a policeman comes to is, the driver's drunk. It's a holiday weekend.
But as he surveys the point of impact, Kenda makes an intriguing discovery.
There's a pair of Pony brand white tennis shoes that were found in the street. Chandra was wearing those when that car hit her. The impact is so severe that it literally lifts her body out of her shoes.
That's not the only peculiar detail. Not far from the shoes is a set of skid marks.
Skid marks can tell you a lot. They can tell you direction of travel, how fast a car was going at the time an accident occurs.
braking action skid mark, they're darkest when the brakes are slammed on. Then they tend to fade a little and then be dark again at the very end when the car comes to a stop.
These tracks are different. They're thinner, and the rubber is burnt into the pavement, something that's caused by spinning tires.
These are not braking marks, they're acceleration marks. Now I do know why I'm here. I don't think this is an accident. I think somebody did this on purpose. It's not a drunk. It's a guy committing a crime and using a car as a weapon.
Detectives?
What's it look like?
Well, I came down here to measure the skid mark, only you see how it's darker in the middle and lighter on the edge?
Doesn't look like you're trying to avoid an accident, does it?
Nope.
All right, we'll take it from here.
Not far from where Chandra's shoes were discovered, Kenda's team spots a parked car with fresh blood on it.
Crime scene?
It receives damage to the left front driver's side, which was consistent with just being struck by another vehicle.
Yeah, it's obviously what the initial impact was.
But what do all these clues add up to? To answer that question, Kenda and his team of investigators begin questioning the slew of onlookers, hoping to find someone who witnessed the accident firsthand. It isn't long before they hit pay dirt.
We have a young lady here who says she saw the whole thing.
I'm Lieutenant Kenda, and you saw what happened here?
I saw the whole thing.
Can you tell me exactly what you saw?
The woman's name is Andrea Williams. She doesn't live on Maple Street, but she tells Kenda she and her boyfriend happened to be driving by at the time of the incident.
It was just a beautiful day. My boyfriend Doug and I were driving around looking for a park.
Andrea says they had just pulled over on Maple Street when they noticed a young couple a few yards ahead of them. It was Chandra Murr and Brian Simmons.
Some hot dogs?
Yeah.
Just then, a dark blue car pulled up to the couple.
A gentleman was in a blue car and the lady was kind of on the sidewalk in the street. They were, a heated conversation.
There was an exchange of physical gestures, and then there was probably threats made back and forth.
Could you hear what they were saying?
Andrea says the blue car started to drive off, but then slammed on the brakes.
The driver throws the car in reverse and floors it.
Tires squealing, the driver swerved the car towards Chandra.
Did you see that?
Oh my gosh. I just know he aimed the car straight for her, and he was going fast. I can still hear the sound of him hitting her.
He ran over her and pinned her up against that car.
Within seconds, you're going, oh my God, he hit her. Oh my God, he hit her.
With Chandra pinned, the blue car continued accelerating in reverse, its wheels burning rubber on the pavement. Then, the car turned, forcing Chandra under its tires as it backed over her.
He then completely ran over her, hit the curb, ran up on the curb into a yard, and crashed into a fence. He then put the car in forward, again driving over Chandra when he was leaving the scene.
It's horrible. I can't describe how horrible it is.
Andrea's harrowing account of the incident dovetails with the skid marks and other evidence found on the scene. It also means Chandra Murr was run down in front of her two young children on purpose.
I have children of my own, a boy and a girl. Here's a boy and a girl. Little, could have been mine. You see your own in these things. It just pains me to no end when I see a child suffer. They're innocent, and to have someone hurt them is something I just couldn't stand. I am going to find this person, and there's going to be no mercy when I do.
On Memorial Day, 1990, devoted mother of two, Chandra Murr, was headed to her son's third birthday party.
She just loved children. She loved them. That was her life.
But on the way to the party, Chandra was savagely run down.
This is by far the most violent act I've ever witnessed in my life.
Emergency responders rush Chandra to nearby Memorial Hospital, where ER doctors are now fighting to save her life. Meanwhile, Lt.Joe Kenda and his team of detectives are on the hunt for Chandra's assailant. But who was behind the wheel? Kenda asks eyewitness Andrea Williams for a description of the driver, but Andrea draws a blank.
I just wasn't getting a good picture of what he looked like or, who he was.
But in speaking with several neighbors, investigators learned there was someone in the back seat of the vehicle.
So what do we know? What we're fairly certain of, the car has more than one person in it. They're probably guys.
That's not all that Kenda knows about the assailant in his vehicle.
Looks like we got some paint transfer here also.
And the presence of blue paint on the car Chandra was pinned against dispels any doubts as to the vehicle's color.
Dispatch, this is Lieutenant Kenda. I need you to put out a high-priority bolo on a blue sedan, older model, possible multiple suspects with fresh rear damage.
A BOLO, short for Beyond the Lookout, is an emergency bulletin that goes out to every patrol officer in the area.
There is no place to go looking except to look everywhere. So you put this information out to all of your eyes on the street.
29213 18th Avenue South.
Over the next 20 minutes, Kenda listens intently as officers all over the city make half a dozen traffic stops.
You hear someone call out. I have a blue car, color license Lincoln David Adams 616 stopping this address. Hey, is that it? Is that the one? And then he'll be back at the air in like 15 seconds. Negative on the damage. Damage is old. I've released the car. You hear the next one, and the next one. And every one, you're hopeful. Okay, is that it? Is that it? No, it's not it.
Kenda knows the BOLO could take hours, if not days, to produce results. With the killer on the loose, he decides to focus on the details he does know, like the assailant's weapon of choice.
When someone elects to use something so unusual as a car as a way to kill, you have to ask yourself, why is that? Because it is a weapon of opportunity at that moment. He makes a decision that he needs a weapon. The only one he's got is a blue car. The driver, to be that angry, to be that out of control, has a long history with whoever he's trying to kill.
If the incident was personal, who in Chandra's world would want to inflict such pain on her? With Chandra fighting for her life, the most logical place to start is with her boyfriend, Brian Simmons.
We need to find Brian Simmons because he is standing next to the victim when Chandra winds up getting run over.
They're on the way. Help is on the way. You're going to be okay. Oh, thank you.
According to eyewitnesses, Brian rode in the ambulance that took Chandra to the hospital. Kenda dispatches a detective to track him down.
The detective goes out to the hospital. He calls me back and he says, Simmons isn't here. Why isn't he here? Well, he got so emotional over the treatment of his girlfriend that the hospital people threw him out of the hospital. And nobody seems to know where he is at the moment. As soon as we can locate him, we need to ask him what he knows about this. He's critical to me at this point.
As his men work to track down Brian Simmons, Kenda turns to his next best option, Chandra's friend, Lisa Jones.
Miss Jones?
Yes.
I'm Detective Kenda. It's possible to ask you a few questions about what happened?
Lisa is still very distraught, but she is able to at least converse with us. Who is this woman? Who is the victim of this crime?
She was a good girl. We were really close friends. She had children, I did. We hung out together.
Chandra was a very outgoing young lady. She was a joy to have around. She was just a normal, good country girl.
Lisa has nothing but good things to say about her injured friend. But she also informs Kenda that Chandra's life is far from perfect.
She's married to a guy named Brent Murr. They've been separated for 2 years. They're still legally married, but they don't live together. Brent Murr is as likely a candidate as anybody else. He's connected to her,
Lisa tells Kenda that Chandra and Brent had frequent arguments over custody of their 2 children.
Anytime I investigate, I'm looking for something that sets off an alarm in my head. There was a great deal of trouble in that marriage.
She was dating other people?
Yes.
Was he upset by that, or?
I didn't think he liked it too well. They argued all the time.
You're crazy. You're absolutely insane.
Oh, I'm the crazy one?
You've lost your mind.
I'm the crazy one?
There's my alarm. And that alarm is going ding, ding, ding. I sent 2 detectives to find him, find Mr. Murr, and find out where he's been spending his holiday today.
Detectives tracked down Brent Murr at a backyard Memorial Day party on the other side of town.
How you doing? I'm Detective Kenda. Is there a Brent Murr here?
Sure. Brent.
Brent, I'm Lieutenant Kenda.
Nice to meet you.
Is Chandra your wife?
Yeah. Why?
We don't tell people what's going on because it results in an emotional reaction that's not truthful. So we said to him, we're conducting a criminal investigation in which your estranged wife may or may not be involved. We just need to know why it is you 2 aren't together. Now, that makes people very curious, but it doesn't make them emotional.
Brent admits that their breakup was extremely difficult for both parties.
He's real straightforward about it, very honest about it.
I probably drank too much.
Well, I drank too much, and we fought about it. And we have had some trouble about custody with the kids, but that's about it. He knows that she has a couple of boyfriends. He doesn't know who they are. All of the stuff he describes are pretty common sorts of things. He's carrying on his life, and he's not part of this event.
Kenda asks Brent to explain his whereabouts at the time of the incident.
Have you seen Chandra today?
No, I have not. I've been here most of the day, since 10.
It's an alibi the other partygoers vouch for.
You have a vehicle?
It's that black one on the street.
He doesn't own a blue car, and he hasn't left all day, and he is basically eliminated from the process.
Well, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It seems Kenda has hit a dead end, though not for long.
Go ahead for Kenda.
It's one of his detectives who's posted at the hospital in hopes of speaking with Chandra Murr. He's got some bad news.
The detective calls back, said she's been pronounced.
It was just a horrible, 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 horrible thing.
If your child dies in an accident, or they die of a disease, you think, well, that's God's will. But to know that someone horrifically killed your child in a slow, painful way like that, you can't reason with that.
Okay. Now we don't have an attempted murder. Now we have a murder.
Kenda checks on the progress of the bolo. In the hours since it was issued, police have stopped over a dozen blue cars, but none have fender damage consistent with Chandra's murder. Kenda knows each minute that passes is a gift to his fugitive.
The last time anybody sees my killer, he's behind the wheel of a car. I don't know where he is or even where he went. And the longer that takes to find him, the more difficult this becomes.
Just when it seems like the case is slipping through his fingers, Kenda gets an unexpected break. A break that could crack the case wide open.
They find the needle in the haystack of blue cars. That bolo has come back with a hip.
Lieutenant Kenda. Yes, sir. I think we've got your blue sedan.
It is blue. It's in very poor condition. There is fresh damage to the rear of the vehicle.
And when patrol officers take a closer look, they find something even more damning.
There is blood on the underside of the car. I've been looking for a target, and now I have one.
23-year-old mother of two, Chandra Murr, has been run down in the middle of a quiet residential street. After holding on for hours, Chandra has passed away. Now it's up to Lt.Joe Kenda to track down her killer.
Chandra Murr is an innocent person who's had her life taken away from her, with her kids being allowed to witness it. You can't have a more awful scenario than that. We've got to resolve this. We have to resolve this.
Thankfully, the bolo Kenda issued earlier seems to have paid off.
71 Bravo, Lieutenant Kenda. Yes, sir. I think we've got your blue sedan. It's got severe rear damage.
2 cops stop a car. The blue car we've been looking for.
Your hands where I can see them. Show me your hands.
There are 2 occupants in this car.
Open the door from the outside.
The driver is a white male, blonde hair, 24 years old. His buddy, another white guy, is 22 years old.
Hands behind your back.
There is blood on the underside of the car.
Let's go.
While the men are being taken to homicide, their car is towed to the CSI garage for processing.
Hey, it's full of beer cans, liquor bottles. Let's get him to Kenda.
An hour later, Kenda and a crime scene tech are examining the vehicle.
We've got blood all over the bumper down here.
The technician runs a Kastle-Meyer test, which determines if a substance is in fact human blood. When the swab turns pink, it's confirmed. The blood is an irrefutable link to the murder of Chandra Murr. But it's not the only evidence they've discovered.
When 2 cars collide, paint transfers one to the other.
So we got some paint transfer here.
In this case, we find transfer paint that's all over. No question, this is our car.
The car may be identified, but what about the men inside?
The driver is an individual identified as John Ritchie. Michael Schell is the passenger in this car.
John Ritchie works as a painter. Since he was the one behind the wheel, Kenda figures he's likely the killer. If so, then what was John's motive?
Everything about the knowledge of the event tells me that someone has an enormous amount of intent. They are enraged at Chandra for some reason. I don't know what that is.
How you doing, John?
The driver has an odor of alcohol about his person, about his breath, these bloodshot eyes.
Is there a little problem here? Involved an accident a little while ago?
What accident?
John, the car that we caught you in with Michael, was it an accident?
There was no accident. We just started drinking this morning.
You were in this car all day?
Yes.
He goes through his little story about how it's not him, and he doesn't know anything about anybody getting hit with a car. He doesn't know anything.
Beyond not telling Kenda why he did it, John Ritchie isn't even acknowledging the basic indisputable facts.
With all the damage on the vehicle, blood on the vehicle, and you're gonna sit here and tell me you don't know anything about it?
No, I really don't. I didn't hit anybody.
You are in the suspect vehicle, the instrument of death in this case. You are driving it, but you don't know anything about this. I don't think so.
This is your chance to get on top of this and help yourself out, and it's the only chance you're gonna get. I'll tell you what, why don't you sit here and think about it for a little bit. I'll be back.
If John Ritchie won't offer any additional information, perhaps his pal Michael Schell will.
Michael Schell was a 21-year-old individual that worked at one of the local credit unions.
Before Kenda even goes in, one of his detectives informs him of a stunning development.
He's not getting me anything. He's smashed. You're not gonna believe this. He's her younger brother.
Her being Chandra, the victim?
Yes, sir.
No.
It's like, what? He's who? He's her brother.
Hey guys, guess who's here? Uncle Michael. Let's go say hi.
Guys! Hey! How's it going?
Was in the car when this happened.
It was just such an amazing coincidence that when they finally did discover the car, Chandra's brother was in it, and you think, how could you have been in this without stopping it?
It's a question Kenda plans to put directly to Michael Schell, but getting an answer from him is easier said than done.
Should we have some coffee?
I went into the interrogation room, and this guy can't sit up. He's so drunk.
Nevertheless, Kenda presses on.
Michael, you with me?
He tells Michael that the car his friend John Ritchie was driving was used to run over and kill someone earlier that day.
Tell me what happened. Did John run into someone?
Michael can only stare at Kenda in disbelief.
You don't know? You don't remember? Talk to me here.
I don't remember.
He remembers being in the car, he remembers drinking, but he doesn't remember anything about anybody getting hit by a car.
As with John Ritchie, Kenda is unsure if Michael is telling the truth, too drunk to remember the truth, or merely stonewalling. So Kenda plays his trump card.
I ask him if he knows that his sister has been horribly hurt and might not survive as a result of this car that he was in, running over her.
Wait, she got hit?
Tell us what happened. Talk to me.
Michael comes unstuck emotionally. Starts to cry, starts to scream, starts to pound his fist.
Kenda isn't sure what to think. Everything in his experience tells him Michael's grief is genuine. All Kenda knows for certain is that his witness has become completely unhinged.
Is he useful as a witness at this point? Absolutely not. He's had way too much to drink, so what's he going to tell us that's going to be of any use?
While it's possible Michael Schell was passed out in the passenger seat at the time Chandra was killed, whoever was driving would have been sober enough to remember it. But until Michael Schell sobers up, or John Ritchie starts talking, Kenda has a gaping hole in his case.
Now, it turns out that both of these clowns are wanted on signed complaints, misdemeanor offenses. So I can still hold them without trying to decide if they were driving the car during the crime. So, okay, all right, take him to jail.
Kenda's move works. Just moments later, John Ritchie decides he wants to talk, and what he says changes the entire direction of the case.
I wasn't driving earlier today.
I wasn't driving this car before. Before what? Well, there's this guy that was driving. It's his car. Is the driver the guy that ran over this girl? I have the car. Now I need the name of the killer that drove it. Just give me a name, and I'll do the rest.
Lt.Joe Kenda and his team are working the murder case of Chandra Murr. They've tracked down the car that ran her over and are now holding two men in conjunction with the crime, John Ritchie and Michael Schell, the latter of whom has a surprising connection to the victim.
Michael Schell was actually Chandra Murr's little brother.
At first, both men deny any knowledge of a hit and run or even a car crash.
I didn't hit anybody.
But after Kenda threatens them with jail time, John Ritchie changes his tune and reveals some stunning information.
I wasn't driving earlier today.
His immediate statement is, I wasn't driving this car. Oh, yeah? Well, there's this guy that was driving. It's his car. Who's your friend? Well, his name's Teddy Sedlak.
John says he and Michael befriended Teddy Sedlak when Teddy started dating Michael's sister, Chandra Murr.
Look gorgeous.
Well, thank you.
When Chandra dumped Teddy for Brian Simmons, Teddy stayed friends with Michael and John. He also continued to carry a torch for his ex-girlfriend.
That gives me pause. So you're telling me that the guy you say was driving is connected to her? Oh, yeah. And he elaborately describes what happened.
John Ritchie tells Kenda that earlier that morning, he, Michael Schell, and Teddy Sedlak had gotten a leg up on the holiday festivities.
They bought a bottle of tequila, they bought beer, they bought all kinds of alcohol. They spend all day drinking it.
By that afternoon, all three men were exceedingly drunk.
We can go play on that playground over there.
But John Ritchie still insists there was no car crash.
Okay, where's your friend Teddy that was driving this car before? Well, he just got out and ran away.
Teddy, where's he going? Teddy.
Really? He suddenly is going to abandon his car and gift it to you. Don't you think that's odd, John?
But John maintains that's exactly what happened.
It's entirely possible. There's enough alcohol running around in these two guys that they really don't know what's happening. The guy that knows what's happening is the driver.
Kenda begins to form a new theory about how the crime went down. After a long day of drinking, John Ritchie and Michael Schell were passed out. So an intoxicated Teddy Sedlak took the opportunity to pay Chandra a visit, hoping he might talk her into taking him back. When that didn't go according to plan, Teddy used his car to take his anger out on Chandra.
I become really interested in Teddy. We start pulling his criminal history up. He is Harry Theodore Sedlak Jr. He has a kind of criminal history that speaks to a hot-tempered guy.
Chandra did get a restraining order against Teddy Sedlak. She obviously was in fear of her life.
He was jealous of her finding a new friend. They really got into some heated arguments.
Hey.
What are you doing here, Teddy?
We need to talk.
We're never getting back together.
Why?
I told you not to come here anymore.
I need to come here.
Please
This is
leave,
where
Teddy.
I need to be.
Just leave.
According to Chandra's family, Teddy continued to stalk her even after she filed the restraining order.
Brian, he's back.
I've had enough of this.
A fact Chandra's new boyfriend, Brian Simmons, took issue with.
Teddy was known to be, not a very large man, and Brian was somebody who took Teddy on.
That's enough. Get the hell out of here. Get off the porch.
Okay, we're just talking.
Get off the porch or I'm gonna beat your ass. Go.
Teddy was afraid of him.
When I'm looking at people, I don't want to just rely on the evidence. What kind of person is this?
Teddy's rap sheet.
This is the guy?
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Has he done this kind of thing before? In a manner of speaking, yes, he has. Is he capable of this behavior? Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. He has the right personality to take a weapon like a car and use it without thinking about the consequences. So now it's time to get a warrant for this guy and go find him. I get everybody on this. Find every address where Teddy has ever laid his head down and bring him to me. And they start hitting addresses all over town. Places they've heard of, places, apartments he stayed in. Any information we can get on this guy.
But at each stop, Kenda's team misses Teddy by mere minutes.
We're behind him every time we get there. In one place, there was a backpack partially packed in an apartment, and no Teddy.
Worried his new prime suspect might slip through his fingers, Kenda employs a more personal tactic.
I called his mother the next morning.
It's not untypical for somebody who gets in trouble to seek out their parents.
I need to convince his mother that she needs to bring him to me.
Miss Sedlak?
Yes.
I'm Detective Kenda.
Is Teddy all right?
Ma'am, your son's been involved in a homicide.
I said, now your son, he is wanted on an arrest warrant for first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and crime of violence.
No, but he wouldn't have done this.
I have every police officer in the state out there looking for him. And if they find him before I do, I can't guarantee his safety.
I said, he's wanted for as serious a crime as you can be wanted for. and they're going to treat him as dangerous and probably armed. So before he has to explain this to incoming bullets, it would be in his best interest if you would surrender him to me.
Nearly 24 hours have passed since Chandra Murr was crushed to death by a vehicle that barreled into her. After an extensive investigation, Lt.Joe Kenda now believes the killer is Chandra's obsessive ex-boyfriend, Teddy Sedlak.
I'm not looking for Mr. Mystery anymore. I'm looking for him.
But despite a massive citywide search, Teddy has managed to elude capture. In order to track down Teddy, Kenda turns to Teddy's mother, hoping she can convince her son to turn himself in.
Most of the policemen I know are going to shoot first and ask questions later. So if you want your son to survive this, it would be in his best interest if you would surrender him to me. I won't hurt him. I can't say that about everybody else.
Teddy's mother sits in stunned silence and takes a moment to consider Kenda's offer.
I'll think about it.
Well, don't take too long. Teddy's time's running out.
She finally says, I'll think about that. Yeah, you do that.
Kenda hopes he's put his faith in the right person.
All your money is on one player, and that player has a very deep connection with the guy you want her to turn over, which is going to go against every instinct she's got.
Just then, Kenda gets a surprise call from the front desk. Someone's here to see him.
So I go out to the front lobby, and there's Teddy, flanked by his attorney. Teddy's shoulders are folded forward, he's looking at the ground, and he's almost in tears.
Teddy Sedlak is arrested for the murder of Chandra Murr, but Kenda doesn't get the satisfaction of interrogating him.
When he finally did turn himself in, he was in the presence of an attorney, and that attorney had advised him not to speak to us.
Teddy Sedlak may be off limits to Kenda. But not long after Teddy is booked, another eyewitness surfaces. An eyewitness who has been missing in action.
Come in.
Lieutenant Brian Simmons.
Brian, I'm Joe Kenda.
Brian Simmons pops up. He finally comes back to the police station, and we're there.
Brian explains that he'd been so grief-stricken over the death of his girlfriend that he needed some time to himself.
He hadn't been hiding from us. He's just been incredibly emotional, perfectly understandable.
Now, Kenda can get a first-hand account of what happened.
Walk me through it. Tell me exactly what you saw, what happened.
According to Brian, he and Chandra were on their way to pick up their friend, Lisa Jones, when Teddy Sedlak unexpectedly rolled up on them.
He comes by, he almost stops where Brian is standing with Chandra, and he flips Brian off and says something really nasty to him.
Hey, you. Yeah, that's my girl. Here.
Brian steps out into the street and yells after Ted.
Why don't you come back here and say that, you son of a...
Well, Teddy does. Teddy put that car in reverse and slammed the gas pedal.
Brian says Chandra made it out of the path of the speeding car, but at the last second, Teddy turned his wheel to veer right into her.
And hit her, drove her into that parked car, pulled forward, she fell on the grass. He backed over her. He looked right down at her, looked at her, and then drove forward over her again and left.
It's a horrifying account, and it drives home the fact that Teddy Sedlak knew exactly what he was doing when he ran Chandra Murr down in the middle of the street.
Information that he was actually looking out the window, could have clearly seen Chandra in the roadway, That leads more to criminal intent, or what we believe to be criminal intent. Give us probable cause to charge him with first-degree murder.
As for John Ritchie and Michael Schell, it appears they were, as Kenda suspected, passed out drunk in the back seat during the murder. With the case now in prosecutors' hands, Chandra's family attends to the grim task of burying their daughter.
I took 3 of my detectives with me, and we went to Chandra's funeral.
Without saying a word, Kenda approaches Chandra's 2 young children and hands each a stuffed animal. It's the only condolence he can offer.
I said, "Here, I want you to have these." And they took them. Am I going to make this okay? No. Am I going to take away the death of their mother? No, I'm not doing that either. Can I give them a moment when maybe they feel good about something? Yeah, I can do that. Little kids need something to hold on to.
1 year later, Teddy Sedlak pleads guilty to second-degree murder. He's sentenced to 22 years in prison, far short of the 48-year maximum he could have received. Although Chandra's friends and family are happy to see Teddy locked up, it's hardly the outcome they, or Kenda, were hoping for.
There are people among us who shouldn't be allowed to be among us.
Hartford doesn't scream when it happens. It holds its breath. Streetlights hum, the river keeps moving, and somewhere behind a row of triple-deckers a dog barks like it's warning the night itself. Then the morning comes, and the city pretends it's just another day, until a single headline detonates across kitchen tables and radio dials: kidnapped. Found dead. No answers. In the fall of 2010, one name became a bruise you couldn't stop pressing. One case became a shadow that didn't leave when the sun rose. And the strangest part, what people still whisper about when the conversation drops to a hush, isn't the violence. It's the precision. The silence. The way the crime felt rehearsed. Her name was Marisol Vega. 29. A medical billing clerk with a laugh that traveled fast and a temper that never stayed long. She lived on the South End side, in a second-floor apartment above a hair salon that smelled like coconut oil and hot irons. Marisol was the kind of person who paid her rent early and left extra tips for delivery drivers. She kept a little basil plant on the windowsill even though Hartford winters murdered plants without mercy. She spoke English like a blade and Spanish like a hymn. And she was the kind of person who had routines, tight, dependable routines, that made her disappearance ring like a fire alarm. On Tuesday, October 12th, she left work at 5:06 p.m. That much was clean. The office security camera caught her stepping into the parking lot, purse on her shoulder, cardigan half-buttoned, a phone pressed to her ear. She paused by her car, a dark blue sedan parked under a flickering lamp, and you can almost see her mouth shape the word, wait, almost see the impatience in her posture. She looks off camera, toward the far side of the lot, and her expression shifts. Not fear. Not yet. More like surprise, the way you look when you didn't expect to see someone. She takes 2 steps forward and the camera glitches, just a stutter, a skipped heartbeat of footage. When it steadies again, the space beside her car is empty. No struggle. No sprint. No dramatic lunge. Just gone. At first, people filled the silence with ordinary explanations, because ordinary is easier to swallow. Maybe she went out with friends. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she needed space. But when Marisol didn't show up to pick up her little brother from practice that evening, a promise she never broke, panic slid in like a knife under the ribs. Her mother, Carmen, called again and again until the calls went straight to voicemail. At 9:42 p.m., Carmen dialed 911, voice cracking as she spelled her daughter's name like letters could keep her alive. The operator asked what she was wearing. What her car looked like. If she had enemies. Carmen laughed once, a sharp sound that wasn't humor. Enemies, she repeated. She's a girl who works and comes home. The first patrol car rolled into Marisol's parking lot just after 10. Flashlights swept the asphalt. Her sedan sat exactly where she left it. Doors locked. Windows up. No broken glass. No smeared handprints. No spilled purse contents scattered like confetti. The engine was cold. But on the roof of the car, barely visible under the sodium light, there was a thin arc of dust disturbed, as if something had brushed across it. A hand. A sleeve. A body leaning close. And on the ground by the driver's side tire, half pressed into a crack in the pavement, an object glinted. A single cheap earring back. The kind you lose when you yank something off too fast. By midnight the search went official. Flyers hit telephone poles. Her photo, a smiling face framed by dark curls, stared from every corner store window. Missing, the bold letters shouted. Please help. Police dogs sniffed the lot, circled, then pulled hard toward the edge of the property, toward a chain-link fence that separated the office complex from a service road. And then the dogs did something that made handlers tighten their grips. The animals stopped. Not confused. Not tired. Stopped like they'd hit a wall. They sniffed the ground, whined once, then turned away, as if the scent ended abruptly, as if someone had plucked Marisol's trail up by the roots. The rumor started before dawn. She'd been taken in a car. Lifted clean. No time for screams. No time for fights. The kind of abduction you see in documentaries, not in a lot under a light that should have been safe. The kind that makes parents drive slower past schools, makes people glance behind them in grocery aisles. Hartford woke up with a knot in its stomach, and the knot only tightened when detectives began talking to co-workers. Marisol had argued with someone on the phone that afternoon. Not a screaming match, but sharp words, clipped like nails. One co-worker remembered hearing, "I told you no," and then, "Don't come here." Another said Marisol looked pale for a moment afterward, then shook it off like she was brushing away a spider web. A supervisor checked phone logs. The call came from a prepaid number. No subscriber name. No billing address. A blank mask. The detectives worked fast because the first hours matter, because the clock doesn't care about prayers. They pulled surveillance from nearby businesses. A gas station across the service road had a camera that faced the entrance. The footage showed a white panel van cruising past at 5:04 p.m., slow enough to look deliberate. It disappeared behind a line of trees, then reappeared at 5:07, moving faster. The license plate was a smear of light. The make and model could have been anyone's. And just like that, Hartford's nightmare had a shape. A white van. The most common vehicle in the world. The perfect disguise. The next day, her bank card pinged at an ATM in East Hartford. $200 withdrawn. Then nothing. No more transactions. No more digital footprints. As if the person who took her had just wanted to prove something. I can move her. I can touch her life. I can do it while you watch. Police swarmed the area around the ATM. They dusted it for prints, canvassed nearby businesses. One camera caught a hooded figure at 2:13 a.m., thin, average height, face angled away from the lens. They used their left hand to cover the keypad, right hand to insert the card. Professional. Or paranoid. Or both. The figure glanced up once, directly toward the camera, and for a split second you could see the shine of something pale over the lower face. A mask? A scarf? A bandana? The image froze on news broadcasts until the pixels turned into abstract art. Viewers leaned closer, as if proximity could sharpen truth. Volunteers combed parks and alleys. They waded through brush along the Connecticut River. They walked with sticks, poking at leaf piles, calling her name into the wind. Carmen stayed by the phone, refusing to sleep in case it rang. Marisol's brother, Diego, kept his shoes on in bed like he was ready to run the moment someone shouted, "We found her." Churches held candlelight vigils. People cried next to strangers and promised each other they would never let this happen again, as if vows could barricade evil. Then came the call. It was 3 days after she vanished. Friday, 6:18 a.m. Dispatch received a report from a sanitation worker on the outskirts, near a stretch of industrial lots where the city's edges fray into warehouses and silence. The worker had smelled something sweet and rotten, something that didn't belong in cold autumn air. He followed the odor behind a stack of pallets and found a bundle wedged between two dumpsters, wrapped in a dark tarp secured with bright orange rope. Not tied in sloppy knots, wound in clean loops, measured, as if someone had taken their time. As if someone had wanted it to look a certain way. The first officer on scene vomited behind his cruiser. The second officer called for a supervisor and kept repeating, oh God, like it was a radio code. When detectives arrived, the air tasted like metal. They pulled on gloves. They photographed every angle. They cut the rope, peeled back the tarp, and Hartford's breath finally broke into a scream. Marisol's body was inside. Not buried. Not hidden far away. Left like a message on the city's doorstep. Her wrists were bound with zip ties. Her ankles too. There was tape over her mouth, but not to gag screams. Her throat was already bruised, deep purple fingerprints blooming like flowers. A strip of duct tape had been pressed over her eyes, smudged with mascara. And on her chest, resting on her sweater like a grotesque gift, was a Polaroid photograph. Not of her. Of her car. The photo showed her sedan in the parking lot on the night she disappeared. Taken from above, slightly angled, as if shot from the second floor of the office building or from the top step of a nearby staircase. In the corner of the photo, barely visible, was a timestamp scratched into the white border with something sharp, 5:05. The detail hit detectives like a punch. The abductor had been there. Not passing through. Not improvising. Watching. Documenting. And the choice of Polaroid wasn't random. Polaroids don't need a lab. They don't leave a digital trail. They appear in your hand like the truth developing, slow and cruel. Whoever did this wanted something tangible. Something you could hold while you shook. The medical examiner's report turned the stomachs of people who read it. Cause of death, asphyxiation. Time of death, likely within 12 hours of abduction. No clear evidence she'd been kept alive for days. The ATM withdrawal, then, was a performance. A decoy. A deliberate misdirection. And there were other oddities. No semen. No obvious signs of sexual assault. Her clothing was intact, her hair brushed back behind her ears, almost neat. Like someone had cleaned her up. Like someone had decided how she should be presented. Even the tape over her eyes felt theatrical, like a villain in an old movie, except this wasn't fiction, and Marisol wasn't acting. Detectives found fibers on the duct tape, blue and white, consistent with industrial work gloves. They found a single long blonde hair caught in the adhesive near her temple. Marisol's hair was black. Carmen's was black. No one in her household was blonde. The hair went into evidence, sealed away like a thin thread that could lead out of the maze. They lifted partial prints from the Polaroid's glossy surface, but nothing clean enough to match quickly. They traced the orange rope to a hardware supplier, one of dozens. Zip ties were everywhere. Duct tape was everywhere. It was like the killer had weaponized the most ordinary objects on Earth. The city's mood shifted after the body was found. Hope didn't just fade. It snapped. Anger moved in. Neighbors demanded patrols. Reporters camped outside police headquarters, microphones raised like spears. Carmen stood in front of cameras and asked the question that hung in the air like smoke, if someone can take her like that, who's next? Her voice didn't break. That was the most terrifying part. It was steady. It sounded like stone. Police built timelines, mapped phone calls, cross-referenced vans registered in Hartford County. They interviewed every man who had ever dated her, every coworker who'd ever disagreed with her, every neighbor who'd ever seen her walk up the stairs. They pulled records from cell towers, looking for devices that pinged near the parking lot at 5:05 p.m. That net caught hundreds. Then thousands. The city was dense with phones, and in 2010 the data wasn't the sharp weapon it is now. It was a blur, A haystack made of signals. A detective named Raymond Klein took the case personally. Not because he knew Marisol, but because he recognized the kind of cruelty that left a Polaroid behind. That detail kept him awake. The photo wasn't evidence by accident. It was a signature. A flex. Klein sat at his desk long after midnight, staring at the image, tracing the timestamp with his thumb through an evidence bag, imagining the moment it was scratched into place. Was it done at the scene? In the van? In a garage under fluorescent lights? Did the killer smile while carving the numbers? Did they feel powerful? Did they feel calm? And then, quietly, almost insultingly, another headline landed like a brick through a window. A woman in New Britain reported a white panel van creeping behind her as she walked home from a late shift. She sped up. The van sped up. She turned down a side street, ducked behind a parked car, called her friend in a whisper. The van idled at the corner for nearly a minute, as if waiting. Then it rolled away, slow, almost lazy. Police took the report, filed it, added it to the growing pile of maybe. Maybe connected. Maybe not. Maybe paranoia. Maybe the killer testing the waters again, tasting the fear he'd poured into the city. For Carmen Vega, every white van became a trigger. Every squeal of brakes made her flinch. She stopped taking the bus. Diego stopped staying late after school. People began looking at each other differently, scanning faces for secret lives. It didn't matter that crime always exists. This felt different. This felt targeted. Like a predator had stepped into Hartford and proven how easily the rules could be broken. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, detectives noticed something chilling. The orange rope used to bind the top wasn't cut from a random length. It was fused at the end, heat-sealed, neat, like someone had access to equipment or knew how to finish rope so it wouldn't fray. Not something you do in a rush. Not something you do if you're panicking. It suggested patience. Control. A person who didn't fear time. That's what the case did to Hartford. It warped time. Days felt like weeks. Weeks felt like a tunnel with no exit. People begged for a suspect, any suspect, because a named monster is easier to fear than a faceless one. But the investigation kept circling back to the same haunting truth: whoever took Marisol knew how to disappear in plain sight. And then, at the end of the first week, a detective opened the evidence bag containing the Polaroid again and noticed a detail no one had clocked under the glare of grief and urgency. In the background, reflected faintly in the sedan's rear window, there was a shape, just a smear of light and shadow, that looked like a person standing behind the camera. A person holding something in their hand. A small square. Another Polaroid. As if the killer had photographed the photograph. As if the crime had been recorded in layers. As if someone, somewhere, still had the originals. And Hartford, already shaken, felt the ground tilt beneath it, because that meant one thing, one terrifying thing: this wasn't just an abduction. It was a staged event. A performance. A message. And the audience was all of them. The reflection in the rear window isn't a face, not a clean silhouette, not the kind of thing you can circle in red and call a breakthrough on the evening news. It's a smear, an echo, like the glass itself is trying to forget what it witnessed. But Detective Raymond Klein can't unsee it. He drags the Polaroid under a desk lamp and tilts it until the light skates across the glossy surface, and there it is again. A narrow shoulder line, an elbow bent, a hand holding. A square, another photograph, and for a second the room feels smaller, airless, because it means the killer didn't just take a picture. The killer staged a picture about taking a picture, a nesting doll of proof, a private joke, and that kind of mind doesn't stop at one punch, it keeps swinging until someone drops. Klein calls in the tech unit, the lab guys with their magnifiers and their software that promises to pull ghosts out of pixels, and they do what they can. They scan, they enhance, they argue over whether the bright blob near the hand is a watch face or a ring, whether the dark wedge at the chin is cloth or shadow, and the results are always the same: maybe, could be, hard to say, the four most dangerous words a family can hear. But they do find one thing, so small it feels insulting, that the timestamp scratched into the border, 505, isn't random. It's carved with a pointed tip that leaves tiny burrs in the paper coating, consistent with a box cutter blade or a utility knife, something common on job sites, something carried in pockets without a second thought, and suddenly Hartford's construction crews, warehouse workers, maintenance men, anyone who cuts plastic straps or opens cardboard boxes, all become silhouettes in the city's collective paranoia. The first real wave of anger hits when the media gets hold of the Polaroid detail, because the city can handle tragedy, it can even handle violence, but the thought of a killer leaving a photograph like a calling card, like a trophy, turns grief into rage. Call-in radio lines jam. People demand the police release the image to the public, and the department refuses, terrified of contaminating tips, terrified of copycats, terrified of giving the killer exactly what they want, attention, yet attention is already flooding the streets like rainwater in a storm drain, and everyone feels it, the pressure of being watched, the suspicion that a stranger in a hoodie isn't just a stranger anymore. Carmen Vega, Marisol's mother, stops going outside unless someone walks with her. Diego starts sleeping with a baseball bat under his bed. The basil plant in Marisol's apartment window withers, forgotten, and that tiny death becomes a symbol people can't explain without tearing up. Klein and his partner, Detective Lena Aragon, build the map again, bigger this time, a wall of pushpins and strings that makes their squad room look like a conspiracy museum. Marisol's office. The parking lot. The service road. The gas station camera. The ATM in East Hartford. The industrial lot where she was found. The points form a crooked loop, not random, not neat, like someone drove with intention but not perfection, someone who knew how to move without being seen but still made human choices, turning here instead of there, taking risks, correcting, improvising. They request traffic cam footage, but in 2010 the coverage is patchy, grainy, full of dead angles. They pull phone tower dumps, then watch the list of device IDs spool out like an endless receipt. They request records for white panel vans registered within a 50-mile radius and end up with a spreadsheet thick as a phone book. Every line is a potential monster. Every line is also probably just a plumber. Then a tip comes in that feels too sharp to ignore. A woman calls from a prepaid phone, voice low, shaking, and tells dispatch she saw a white van parked behind the office complex the day Marisol vanished, not in the lot, but tucked against the chain-link fence, nose angled toward the service road like a runner on the blocks. She says she remembers because the van had a dent on the back right door shaped like a crescent moon. She says she saw a man standing near it, smoking, and he looked normal. That's the word she uses. Normal. And it makes Klein's skin crawl, because normal is how predators survive, normal is camouflage. The woman refuses to give her name. She says, "He looked at me like I was furniture," and then the line goes dead. The dent detail becomes their first real hook. They send patrols out with instructions, look for white panel vans with a crescent dent. Auto shops get visits. Body shops get asked about repairs. Insurance claims are searched manually because the system is slow and half-digitized. For 2 days, nothing. Then a mechanic on Wethersfield Avenue remembers a van that came in late October for a door replacement, paid cash, no questions asked. The work order lists the owner as J. Phelps, address non-existent, phone number disconnected. The mechanic remembers because the guy was polite, too polite, standing too close, watching every move like he didn't want to miss a second. He remembers the guy wore a work jacket with a patch on the sleeve, Hartford Utilities. Except Hartford Utilities doesn't exist as a company name. Not officially. Klein's pulse spikes. A fake patch. A costume. A disguise designed to make people glance and move on. Because who questions a utility worker? Who fears a man with a clipboard? The investigation pivots hard. They start checking suppliers for uniform patches, local print shops that make custom embroidery. Aragon visits a shop owner who flips through old invoices and finds a batch order from early 2010, 10, Hartford Utilities, patches, paid in cash, picked up by a man who signed the receipt with a shaky, looping scribble. The security camera over the register captured him in washed-out color, baseball cap, sunglasses, jaw clenched, and yes, something pale over the lower face, like a scarf. Same habit. Same obsession with hiding identity. but the face is still a blur, and Hartford's monster remains a silhouette. While Klein chases the van thread, Aragon stays with Marisol's world, because monsters rarely drop from the sky, they climb out of cracks people ignore. Aragon interviews Marisol's co-workers again, slower, sharper, asking about grudges, about private fears, about men who lingered too long in the lobby. A receptionist mentions a man who came by twice that summer asking for Marie, not Marisol, not Miss Vega, just Marie, as if he owned the nickname. She says he wore a reflective vest and carried a coil of cable over his shoulder like a prop. She says he left when told Marisol couldn't come down. The second time, he got angry, not loud, but cold, lips pressed thin. He said, "Tell her she can't hide." The receptionist hadn't mentioned it earlier because she thought it was just some ex-boyfriend drama, and when Aragon asks her to describe him now, the woman hesitates and says the thing that makes Aragon's stomach tighten: he smelled like bleach. Bleach is what people think of when they think of cleaning. Bleach is what people use when they think of erasing. The lab calls with another detail, one that should have been obvious but wasn't until someone looked twice. The duct tape over Marisol's eyes and mouth was cut with perfectly straight edges, no tear marks, no ragged pulls, which means it was cut with a blade, not ripped by hand. Box cutter again. Utility knife again. Control again. And the adhesive on the tape carries faint traces of powdered lime, calcium hydroxide, something used in construction, in masonry, in certain industrial cleaning processes. It's not a fingerprint. It's not a confession. It's a scent trail, chemical and quiet, leading toward work sites and warehouses and places where men wear gloves because they have to, not because they are hiding. 3 weeks in, the department is drowning in tips. A man in a grey hoodie seen at a bus stop. A white van parked too long behind a grocery store. A scream heard near the river that might have been a fox. The killer's genius, if you can call it that, isn't just cruelty, it's the way the crime poisons everything afterward, making every ordinary detail feel like a clue. The case consumes oxygen. It changes the city's posture. Parents stop letting kids walk. Women tighten their grip on keys. Men start wondering how it feels to be stared at with suspicion just because you exist. The community wants certainty and gets only questions. Then the first false suspect arrives like a storm, the kind of thing that makes headlines flare and then collapse. A parole officer flags a man named Todd Merrick, early 40s, history of assault, owns a white work van, works odd construction jobs, last known address less than 2 miles from the abduction site. Patrol picks him up on a routine stop. His van has duct tape in the glove compartment. Zip ties in the toolbox. A utility knife in his pocket. For a few hours, Hartford allows itself to hope in the ugliest way, hope that someone can be blamed, locked up, labeled, removed. Carmen hears the name on TV and her hands shake so hard she drops a cup. Diego asks, "Is it him?" like he's afraid to want the answer. Klein interviews Merrick in a room that smells like stale coffee and old sweat. Merrick denies everything, laughs, says the police are desperate. Klein watches his eyes, looking for a flicker when he mentions Marisol, looking for satisfaction, guilt, anything. But Merrick's arrogance is the wrong flavor. He's sloppy. He's loud. His van is filthy and cluttered, not the clean slate of someone who planned. And when the lab runs DNA from the blonde hair against Merrick's profile, it comes back negative. Merrick is released, and the city's brief moment of clarity dissolves into bitterness. The police feel the embarrassment like a bruise. The killer, if he's watching, gets the message, they are chasing shadows. That night, a reporter receives an envelope at the station with no return address. Just a thick, off-white paper package dropped at reception as if it's a paycheck. Inside is a single Polaroid photograph. It shows the industrial lot where Marisol was found. Empty. Clean. No tarp. No body. Just dumpsters and pallets and the hard geometry of neglect. But in the bottom right corner of the image, placed carefully on the asphalt like a prop, is a bright orange rope coil. And scratched into the border, in the same jagged handwriting, 3 words. You missed it. The newsroom goes silent the moment the photo is developed enough to see the message. The editor calls police. Police rush in. The photo is bagged, sealed, treated like a live grenade. Hartford doesn't know yet, not officially, but the rumor leaks fast, it always does, and by midnight people are refreshing websites, waiting for updates, feeling the skin on the back of their neck crawl because the killer didn't just take a life, the killer inserted himself into the story, grabbed the microphone, and spoke directly to the city. Klein stares at the new Polaroid under the same desk lamp, and something cold settles in his chest. This isn't just taunting. It's timing. The photo had to be taken after the dump site was cleaned, which means the killer returned, or had someone return, to document the aftermath. That means the killer feels safe moving through Hartford, safe enough to revisit scenes, safe enough to walk into a media building and drop a message like a calling card. It means confidence. It means either the killer is invisible or the killer is someone people routinely ignore. Aragon thinks about the bleach smell. The fake patch. The steady hands that cut tape clean. The way Marisol's body was arranged, hair neat, clothing intact, as if the killer wanted to control the final image. She thinks about the phone call Marisol took at 5:06, the one from the prepaid number, the one where she said, "Don't come here." She starts to believe Marisol recognized the person on the other end. Not a stranger. Not a random predator. Someone who had tried to approach her before. Someone who felt entitled to her attention and snapped when denied. They subpoena the prepaid phone's purchase records. It was bought at a convenience store in Bloomfield. The cashier remembers a man purchasing it with a pack of gum and a bottle of water, paying cash, asking no questions. The store camera captured him from above, cap, sunglasses, lower face covered. Always covered. As if the mouth is the most revealing part, as if the voice is the key. The man glances up at the camera in that same deliberate way, like he's checking whether it's on, whether it's watching, whether it will remember him. And then, just before he leaves the frame, he does something that makes the detective reviewing footage sit up straight. He reaches into his pocket and adjusts a patch on his sleeve. A rectangular patch. Hard to read, but the shape is unmistakable. And for the first time since Marisol vanished, Hartford feels the case tighten into something sharper than panic, something like direction, because now there's a pattern, a wardrobe, a set of behaviors, a persona built like armor, and the persona isn't just about hiding, it's about walking through the world with the authority of a worker who belongs anywhere. A worker who can approach a car without raising alarms. A worker who can ask questions. A worker who can knock on doors. A worker who can be near you without triggering your instincts, because you've been trained your whole life to trust uniforms. Klein leans back in his chair at 3:11 a.m., eyes burning, and whispers to no one, his local. He says it like a curse. Because local means the killer isn't a passing storm. Local means he lives among them. Local means he has roots and habits and favorite stores, and if he's bold enough to send Polaroids, he's bold enough to do something worse. And then the phone on Aragon's desk rings, shrill in the quiet, and when she picks up, a man's voice breathes through the line, distorted like it's pushed through cloth, slow and calm, and he says just one thing before hanging up. Check the river. The dial tone follows, flat and endless, and Aragon's fingers stay frozen around the receiver because she knows what that means. She knows what the city is about to become again. Flashlights, sirens, volunteers, prayers, and the sick certainty that the killer is still writing this story, still turning pages with gloved hands, still deciding what Hartford will see next. The words "check the river" don't land like information, they land like a shove, because rivers don't just carry water, they carry secrets, and the Connecticut River is wide enough to swallow a person whole and keep them quiet. Aragon is already moving before the dial tone fades, coat on, badge clipped, boots hitting the hall with that hard, clipped rhythm that sounds like urgency made physical, and by the time she reaches the bullpen, Klein is there, eyes narrowed, listening without interrupting, because he hears it too, the texture of the voice, the deliberate pacing, the calm. Not a drunk prank call. Not a kid. Not someone panicking. Someone enjoying control. Two cruisers cut through Hartford's early morning fog, lights off until they hit the riverfront, because they don't want attention yet, not until they know what they're looking at, but the city is already awake in that uneasy way it's been awake since Marisol vanished, a restless animal that can't settle. When they reach the river near Charter Oak Landing, the water is a dark ribbon, slow and cold, and the air smells like wet stone and gasoline. A few joggers pause, watching the police step onto the path with flashlights, and even before anyone says a word, you can see the thought spread across their faces: another body. The search starts tight and methodical. Banks, reads, the underside of the small pedestrian bridge where trash collects, then expands, because the river is not one place, it's miles and miles of maybe. Patrol officers form lines, sweeping beams across mud and rocks. AK-9 unit arrives and the dog pulls toward the water, nose down, then stops, confused, sneezing, because river scents are chaos, lead and moving, impossible to pin down. Divers are called, and that takes time, and time is what the killer keeps stealing from them. Time is the currency he spends like loose change. At 6:02 a.m., they find something, but it isn't what the call implied. A bundle, half submerged near a drainage outlet, wrapped in plastic and weighted with stones. The moment Klein sees the shape, his gut drops, because it looks familiar, because it looks staged, because the killer's language has become recognizable. But when they haul it out and slice it open, there's no human inside. It's a mannequin torso, the kind used in store displays, dressed in a women's sweater and bound with orange rope. On its blank chest, taped down with the same clean-edged duct tape, is another Polaroid. This one is different. This one is closer. It shows Marisol's face. Not dead. Not posed. Alive, eyes wide, cheeks wet, mouth uncovered but pressed into a thin line, like she's holding back sound. The angle is too close to be accidental. Someone was right in front of her, camera nearly touching her skin. The photo border is scratched again, but not with a time this time, with a question. Did she beg? Aragon feels her throat tighten, because it's one thing to hunt a killer, it's another thing to be forced to imagine a victim's final moments on the killer's terms. Klein doesn't speak. He just stares until the image blurs slightly from the moisture in his eyes he refuses to acknowledge. A patrol officer swears quietly. Someone else turns away and retches into the river grass. The city's fear has just been given a face, and it's Marisol's, and that feels like the deepest violation of all. The mannequin doesn't make the evening news, officially. The department tries to contain it like a chemical spill. But containment is a fantasy. Within hours, whispers become posts, posts become screenshots, screenshots become rumors so detailed they may as well be truth. People claim they saw the Polaroid. People claim their cousin works at the station and described it. In the absence of official information, Hartford manufactures its own. Monsters grow faster in the dark. The Polaroid, though, is evidence, and evidence has weight. The lab checks it for prints the way a priest checks a relic for miracles. Nothing clean. Partial smudges. The same pattern of careful handling, likely gloves, likely wiped down. But the photo stock is consistent with a specific batch of Polaroid film produced that year, and the serial markings, tiny, almost invisible, suggest it was bought recently, not old stock found in a basement. That means the killer didn't just have a camera. He went out and purchased supplies. He planned to keep shooting. He planned a series. Klein pushes for a media strategy shift. He wants to release the "you missed it" image, he wants the public on alert, he wants the city's eyes to become surveillance. The brass resists, terrified of panic, terrified of lawsuits, terrified of being accused of feeding a sick man's appetite. But the sick man is already eating. Aragon watches the argument like she's watching two people fight over a fire extinguisher while the building burns. Finally, they compromise, a vague statement, no images, a warning about suspicious fans, advice to walk in pairs, report unusual behavior. It's the kind of announcement that makes everyone feel both safer and more doomed. Behind closed doors, the task force grows. State police join in. FBI profilers get consulted, not because the case fits neatly into some federal category, but because the department is desperate for a mind that can see around corners. The profiler they get is a woman named Dr. Elaine Mercer, hair-pinned back, voice calm, eyes sharp enough to slice. She listens to the case details without flinching, then asks for the Polaroids, the handwriting samples, the phone call transcripts. She reads the scratch marks on the borders like they're scripture. She doesn't say, monster. She says, offender, like making it clinical can reduce its power. Mercer's assessment isn't comforting. She says the offender is organized, likely male, likely familiar with Hartford's industrial corridors, comfortable with tools, comfortable with uniforms, comfortable moving unnoticed. She says the staging suggests a need for control, not just over the victim's body but over the narrative, over how the city experiences the crime. She says the Polaroids are trophies and provocations, and the mannequin is escalation without additional risk. She says the question "did she beg?" isn't just sadism, it's an attempt to provoke outrage that will pull the investigation into the offender's desired shape. She says, quietly, he wants you to feel helpless. Klein hates that she's right, because helpless is exactly what Hartford has become. Aragon goes back to Marisol's life again, digging for the first crack where this all started. She talks to Marisol's friends, who sit with tissues and coffee they don't drink, telling stories that sound normal until you realize normal is a luxury. Marisol had a boyfriend once, a man named Luis Herrera, but they split months earlier, and his alibi checks out, and his grief is too raw, too unpolished for performance. She had a co-worker who flirted and got rejected, but he's a talker, a clumsy pursuer, not a silent planner. She had a neighbor who complained about noise, but he's an old man with arthritis. Aragon keeps circling back to a phrase Marisol said often, according to her best friend, Tessa, somebody's been watching me. Tessa says Marisol started saying it in late summer. She'd mention a van parked down the block too often. A man standing near the corner store too long. Footsteps in the stairwell when she opened her door. She'd laugh after saying it, like she didn't want to sound paranoid, but her eyes stayed serious. Tessa remembers one night in September when Marisol called her and whispered, "He's outside again," and when Tessa asked who, Marisol said, "I don't know. I just feel it." Aragon's pen stops moving. "Why didn't you tell police then?" she asks. Tessa's mouth twists. "Because what do you tell them? That your friend feels watched? They would have said she's anxious. They would have said get a dog." Marisol didn't want to be that girl who makes drama. She swallows. And now she's dead. The phrase "that girl" hangs there like smoke. The city is full of women who have felt watched and swallowed it because the world teaches them to doubt their instincts. Aragon feels something cold, not just toward the killer, but toward the way the killer used that cultural silence like a weapon. The task force starts looking for a stalker. They pull parking ticket logs near Marisol's apartment, looking for vehicles that appear repeatedly. They ask the corner stores for old security footage, and most have overwritten it, lost it, erased by time. But one bodega owner, a stubborn man with a heavy accent and a sharper memory, digs out an old DVR and plays back September tapes. The video is grainy, the colors washed, but there's a consistent figure, same height, same posture, standing by the lottery machine at odd times, head angled toward the door, not buying anything, just waiting. The man wears a baseball cap low. Sometimes sunglasses, even indoors. One night he wears a reflective vest. They freeze frame it. The vest has stripes like a utility worker's, but the logo is obscured. The man's face is half hidden. Yet the still image sends a shiver through the room because it looks like the kind of person everyone has seen and ignored 1,000 times. A non-event. A background extra. A ghost with a paycheck costume. Klein orders canvases of utility contractors, electrical, cable, maintenance, anyone who would wear reflective gear. They request employee lists. Some companies cooperate, some resist, worried about reputation. The net widens. Names pour in. Too many names. The haystack grows. And in the middle of that, the killer keeps breathing. Because the phone calls don't stop. They're sporadic, once every few days, always short, always from a new prepaid phone, always routed through noise like fabric over a mouth. Sometimes he says nothing, just breathes until the detective on the line hangs up. Sometimes he drops a phrase like a stone in a pond, "She looked at you on TV. You're too slow." He doesn't sleep, does he? A line that makes Klein slam his fist on a desk because it means the killer knows his name, knows his face, knows how badly he's unraveling. The calls are meant to erode them, to turn the investigation into a psychological hostage situation. Mercer urges them to play a different game. He's feeding on reaction, she says. Starve him. But starving him means silence, and silence feels like surrender, and the department is not built for surrender. Yet they do try. They reduce public statements. They tell dispatchers to keep calls short, to not engage, to record everything. They set traps with phone trace technology that works, sometimes, if the call lasts long enough. The killer adapts, hanging up in under 10 seconds. Always 10. Like he's timing it. Like he's watching a stopwatch. Then an unexpected break arrives, not from technology, not from a profile, but from a human slip. A clerk at a pharmacy in West Hartford calls in a tip. She says a man came in late at night buying bandages, hydrogen peroxide, and instant film. Not just any film. Polaroid film. He paid cash. He wore gloves even though it wasn't cold. He had a reflective jacket folded under his arm. And when she asked, casually, if he was working late, he replied, always, without looking at her. She remembers his voice because it sounded muffled. Like he had something in his mouth, or he was speaking through cloth. She didn't think anything of it until she saw the missing woman posters and heard about Polaroids, and then her skin crawled so hard she said she felt like she needed to shower. Police pull the pharmacy's security footage. The man is there in harsh fluorescent light, clearer than any other image they've had so far. He's still hidden, cap, sunglasses, high collar, but his posture is distinct, shoulders slightly hunched forward, head tilted like he's listening even when no one speaks. And as he turns to leave, the camera catches his sleeve. The patch is visible for one frame. Not Hartford Utilities. Something else. A real company patch. 2 words. North Star. Klein doesn't wait. He sends teams out before dawn to find every contractor, service company, warehouse outfit, anyone using that name. They discover it's a small regional maintenance firm, North Star Facilities, handling cleaning, minor repairs, and night maintenance for a web of properties across Hartford County. Not glamorous work. Not heavily regulated. Lots of keycards. Lots of access. Lots of reasons to be in parking lots after hours without raising alarms. And suddenly the case narrows from a city to a handful of employees with the kind of job that lets them move through spaces like a shadow with permission. Aragon sits in her car outside North Star's main building and watches workers arrive in the early morning, men with coffee cups, men with tool belts, men with reflective vests tossed over shoulders, and she feels the sick paradox of it. Any one of them could be the guy who taped Marisol's eyes shut, any one of them could be the guy who scratched "Did she beg" into the border like it was a joke. She imagines them laughing with co-workers, swapping weekend plans, then going home to families who think they are just tired from a long shift. The thought makes her hands tighten on the steering wheel until her knuckles whiten. Klein meets with North Star's owner, who sweats through his dress shirt, insisting they do good work, insisting his guys are vetted, insisting he'll cooperate, and Klein believes him about the cooperation because the man looks terrified of being associated with this evil. Employee lists are handed over. Time cards. Work orders. Vehicle logs. But the logs are sloppy. Vans are shared. Keys are exchanged. Paperwork is imperfect, written in hurried pen at 3 a.m. after a long shift. The exact environment a predator thrives in: noise, fatigue, blurred accountability. They start with the obvious: who worked near Marisol's office building? Who had access? Who signed in that afternoon? A name appears: Evan Marsh. 36. Night maintenance. Known to pick up extra shifts. Known to be quiet. Known to keep to himself. The file photo shows a man with pale hair, blonde. Klein's stomach clenches because blonde hair was found on the tape. Aragon feels the air change in the room when she sees it, that sudden electricity of possibility. They pull Marsh's address. They learn he lives alone in a small rental in Manchester. They check his record, clean. No arrests. No domestic calls. No obvious red flags. But clean records don't mean clean hands. Sometimes they mean careful hands. They request a warrant. The paperwork grinds like teeth. Meanwhile, Marsh keeps living his life, unaware or pretending to be. Or maybe he is aware. Maybe he's been aware the whole time. Klein can't stop imagining Marsh in his apartment, Polaroids spread out on a table, orange rope coiled like a pet snake, duct tape cut into neat strips, utility knife lying beside a stack of blank film. He can't stop hearing the muffled voice on the phone and wondering if that voice belongs to this man. And while the warrant crawls through the system, another envelope arrives, this time at the police department itself, slipped through the front desk mail slot like a blade through a rib. Inside is a Polaroid of the North Star building. The photo is taken from across the street at night, the sign glowing faintly, the lot empty. Scratched into the border are 4 words that make Klein feel cold all the way down to his bones. "You getting warm?" No return address. No prints. No mercy. Just a message that confirms the most terrifying possibility of all: the killer isn't just local. He's close enough to watch the watchers. Close enough to know their moves before they make them. Close enough to taunt them from inside the perimeter. And Hartford, already frightened, feels something worse settle in, because warmth can lead to fire, and fire can burn the wrong house down. "You getting warm" isn't just a taunt, it's a thermometer pressed to the department's throat, and the heat it measures is fear, fear that the killer is inside their radius, inside their routines, inside their blind spots, breathing their air. Klein holds the Polaroid like it might bite, the evidence bag crackling under his fingers, and the first thought that flashes through him is not Evan Marsh did it, it's worse, Evan Marsh knows. Because someone had to see the list, the warrants, the quiet pivot toward North Star, and someone had to care enough to respond. Someone had to be watching the watchers the way they watched Marisol. The building changes when a killer speaks directly to it. The lobby feels less like public space and more like a stage. The mail slot becomes a mouth. Every uniform in the hallway feels suddenly performative, every badge a target, every laugh too loud. Officers glance at each other longer than they should, doing silent math, who had access to the mail, who worked the desk, who walked in unnoticed. No one says the word mole, but it hovers like cigarette smoke in the ceiling lights. Aragon pushes the Polaroid to the lab within minutes, not because she expects miracles but because motion is the only antidote to helplessness. The lab tech, a tired man with steady hands, tells her what she already knows: gloves, wiped surfaces, the faintest smears that could belong to anyone who's ever touched a door handle. But the Polaroid stock matches the earlier ones. Same batch. Same subtle chemical signature in the emulsion. Same jagged scratch marks, carved with the same blade angle, same pressure, the same impatient lift at the end of each letter like the writer's hand twitches when finishing a stroke. It's the same voice, speaking in inkless cuts. North Star Facilities becomes a pressure point. The owner, panicked now, agrees to let detectives install covert cameras in the yard and in the garage bay where vans are parked. He hands over keycard access logs. He gives them the staff schedule down to the half hour. He insists his men are just workers, they go home, they pay taxes, they complain about overtime, and Klein looks at him with an expression that says, "So did a lot of killers." The thing about predators is they don't look like the idea you have of them. They look like someone you'd ask for directions. Evan Marsh's file sits on Klein's desk like a stone. 36. Maintenance. Pale hair. No criminal record. Lives alone. Drives one of the shared North Star vans on rotating assignment. Klein keeps staring at the photo ID. The eyes are light, hard to read, the mouth neutral, the kind of face a camera hates because it refuses to confess anything. Aragon brings up the blonde hair again, and Klein nods once, slow, because the hair is a thread but threads can strangle if you pull them right. The warrant finally clears at 2:47 p.m. The judge signs with a pen that probably doesn't realize what it just unleashed. By 3:15, Klein and Aragon are in an unmarked sedan rolling toward Manchester, silence between them thick and electric. The sky is low and grey, the kind of day that makes the world feel like it's holding its breath. Klein keeps thinking about that mannequin in the river, about the question scratched into the border, and he can't shake the image of Marisol's wet cheeks. He can't stop hearing Mercer's voice. He wants you to feel helpless. He can't stop wondering if Mercer ever hears her own words at night. They don't go in loud. No sirens. No battering ram at first. They park down the street, watch the rental for 10 minutes, scanning the windows for movement, for curtains twitching. It's a modest building, bay siding, a patch of dead lawn out front, a place that smells like microwave dinners and stale carpet. A bicycle leans against the porch railing, chain rusted. A small trash bin is tipped over, a soda can rolling lazily in the wind. Normal. Too normal. And normal is the killer's favorite mask. Klein signals. The team moves. Boots on steps. Knuckles on door. Police, Klein calls, voice flat, controlled. Open up. Silence answers, deep and stubborn. Klein knocks again, harder. Still nothing. They try the knob. Locked. Aragon looks at him and nods toward the back of the building. Maybe he slipped out, maybe he's hiding, maybe he's already watching from somewhere else. Klein's jaw tightens. Do it, he says. The door gives way under the ram with a crack that feels like the case itself splitting open. They flood in, sweeping room to room, calling out, weapons down but ready, eyes sharp. The apartment is neat in the way of someone who doesn't want anyone to know they exist. Couch clean. Sink empty. No photos on the walls. A single framed print of a sailboat on calm water, generic as a motel decoration. The air smells faintly of disinfectant, bleach adjacent, chemical clean. Aragon's stomach twists. No one is inside. They find the bedroom first, made bed, corners tight, blanket smoothed like it's never been slept in. Closet organized by color. Work shirts folded into identical squares. A reflective vest hangs on a hook like a piece of skin. The patch on it says North Star in block letters. In the bathroom, the medicine cabinet is empty except for a bottle of hydrogen peroxide. Under the sink are latex gloves. A lot of them. Boxes stacked like rations. Then they open the hall closet and the air changes, because the smell hits like a slap, adhesive, plastic, something faintly sweet and rotten under the chemical mask, the way a crime scene tries to hide itself and fails. Inside the closet are coils of rope. Bright orange. Heat-sealed at the ends. Zip ties in bags. Duct tape rolls stacked in a neat tower. A utility knife with the blade extended, resting on a folded rag as if placed there deliberately. And above all of it, taped to the inside of the closet door, a Polaroid photograph, face out, waiting. Klein doesn't touch it with his hands. He stares until his vision narrows and the room feels like it's tilting. The photo shows the front of the police department, shot at night, angled from across the street. You can see the flag out front, the windows glowing, the entrance where the last envelope was slipped in. Scratched into the border, smile. You on camera. Aragon feels her pulse spike so hard it hurts. The killer didn't just anticipate their move. He choreographed it. He left this like a stage direction. The closet isn't just storage, it's a shrine to method, a kit for staging fear, and the photo isn't just a taunt, it's a declaration that he's been filming them, collecting them the way he collected Marisol. They bag everything. They photograph the closet from every angle. They call in CSI. They call in the lab. They call in the prosecutor. The apartment becomes a hive of suits and gloves and clipped voices. And still, Evan Marsh is nowhere. Neighbors say they saw him leave early. Earlier than usual. One woman says he carried a duffel bag and a rolled-up jacket. Another says he looked calm, not rushed, like he was headed to work. A man downstairs claims he heard a van idle out front around 1 p.m., then pull away. None of them thought anything of it. None of them watched long enough. None of them called. Because why would they? It's just a man leaving his house. They pull Marsh's phone records and find exactly what the killer wants them to find, nothing useful. The phone is prepaid. Bought in cash. Activated briefly. Then it goes dark. The same tactic as the caller. The same avoidance of trace. The same vanishing into the static. But the apartment does yield something new, something physical, something that doesn't care about bravado. On the folded rag beneath the utility knife, there's a smear, brownish, dried at the edges. Not much. Just a stain. It tests positive for blood. They can't know yet whose. But blood is truth. Blood doesn't play games. Blood is a door that only opens one way. Aragon stands in the narrow hallway staring at the closet like it's an open mouth. She hears Mercer in her head again, but this time a different line: he wants you to feel helpless. She thinks, bitterly, that he's succeeding. Klein orders a bolo for Evan Marsh. Photo sent to patrol cars. State police alerted. Border units notified in case he tries to vanish across state lines. Every white van becomes a suspect again, every reflective vest a threat. The city's anxiety spikes, because now it isn't just a faceless killer. It's a name on the radio. A man with an apartment full of rope and tape. People want him to be guilty because guilt is closure's ugly cousin. People want him to be the monster so they can stop imagining the monster might be someone else. But Klein is cautious, because caution is the difference between justice and catastrophe. He has been burned by false certainty already. He knows evidence can be planted. He knows a clever killer might frame a convenient scapegoat, might build a kit closet like a movie set and leave it to be found, might vanish and let the system cannibalize an innocent man. He knows the killer is theatrical. He knows the killer likes to control narrative. And he knows this closet, too neat, too obvious, too perfectly evil, feels like a message designed for detectives, not a private stash forgotten by a careless criminal. Aragon feels that discomfort too, like grit under her skin. She points out something small, almost laughable compared to the horror around it. The rope coils are pristine, no fraying, no dirt, no signs of being used. The zip tie bags are full, not missing. The duct tape rolls aren't half spent, they are new. It looks like someone stocked a closet for a demonstration. It looks like a hardware store shelf, not a killer's messy toolbox. Klein stares at the knife again, at the extended blade. That is used. That has residue. That has blood. Which means either the closet is partly real or the killer was smart enough to make sure something in it carried a convincing stain. Klein hates that he can't tell the difference. They tow Marsh's vehicle, an old compact car, impound it, swab it, search it. Nothing. Too clean. They check his bank account. Modest. Normal. No sudden withdrawals. No suspicious purchases. They check his employment history. He bounced between low-level maintenance jobs, mostly nights, mostly places where nobody knows your name. They pull his background in slices. He grew up in New England. Foster care. No stable family. Short stints in community college. Then work. Always work. No close friends. No social media presence beyond a forgotten account. A ghost life, which either makes him harmless or makes him perfect. The next move is North Star itself. They pull Marsh's time cards and discover something that doesn't sit right. On October 12th, the day Marisol vanished, Marsh's card shows he clocked in at 6 p.m., not earlier. Yet he was assigned a van that afternoon, the shared unit logged out at 4:20 p.m. under his name. The van returned at 7:30 p.m., fuel topped off. That discrepancy is a crack. It could be sloppy paperwork. It could be a co-worker borrowing a van under his account. Or it could be exactly what it looks like, a window of movement during the abduction window, a gap where someone could have been in Marisol's lot at 5:05, then back at work like nothing happened. They pull the van's GPS. North Star uses cheap tracking on some vehicles. This one has it. The data is spotty but present. It shows the van traveling through Hartford at 4:55 p.m., then stopping near Marisol's office complex at 5:02, then moving again at 5:08, heading toward the river corridor. The van goes off-grid for 20 minutes, signal lost, maybe under a bridge, maybe in a dead zone, then pings again near East Hartford at 5:43. It returns to North Star later that night. If the GPS isn't spoofed, if it isn't tampered with, the van's path fits the crime like a key fits a lock. Klein feels the heat of it. This is warmth. This is dangerous. This is the point in every case where belief becomes tempting and temptation becomes fatal. He orders an interview sweep of Marsh's co-workers. A dozen men sit in a conference room under harsh lights, shifting in their chairs, eyes darting to each other, trying to figure out whether they are witnesses or suspects. Some look angry, offended by the implication. Some look afraid. One man, older, with oil-stained hands, keeps rubbing his thumb over his knuckles like he's trying to erase invisible dirt. Aragon notices him immediately. The man's name is Calvin Rusk. He says he barely knew Marsh. Quiet guy. Kept his head down. Didn't drink after shifts. Didn't joke. Didn't talk about women. Just worked. Did he ever take photographs? Aragon asks, watching their faces. A few shrug. One snorts. Who takes photos at work? Someone mutters. Rusk swallows. He did, he says finally, voice low. Sometimes. Of the work orders. Like proof. Said the boss likes pictures. He glances away, uncomfortable. He had one of those old cameras. You know. The ones that spit out the photo. Klein's heart gives a hard, angry beat. A Polaroid. Rusk nods. Yeah. Aragon leans forward. Did he ever photograph people? Rusk hesitates too long, and that hesitation is a confession of something he doesn't want to own. No, he says, but the word is weak. He clears his throat. I mean, there was this time. We were at a property off Wyllys Street, late shift. A woman complained about a noise, wanted us to check the basement. Evan, Marsh, he took a picture of the hallway. I asked why. He said the lighting was interesting. Like he was studying it. Studying. That word lands heavy. Because killers don't just act. They study. They rehearse. They choose locations like directors choose sets. Aragon feels her skin crawl. She thinks about Marisol's hair tucked behind her ears, about her body arranged, about the tape cut clean. Studied. Klein dismisses the group and keeps Rusk back. He asks him again, softer, the way you ask someone to step off a ledge. Calvin, did you ever see him with orange rope? Rusk's eyes flicker. No. Klein waits. Silence can be a weapon too. Rusk exhales. There was rope in one of the vans, he admits. Not orange. Regular. But he had zip ties. Always zip ties. Said they were useful for cables. He rubs his thumb harder. He wore gloves a lot. Even when it wasn't cold. Gloves. Masks. Control. Klein thinks of the mannequin torso in the river, and a hot, ugly thought cuts through him. What if the mannequin wasn't just a taunt, but a demonstration, a warning of what he could do again? What if the killer is escalating, and now that they are closing in, warm, he's going to strike to prove he's still in charge? The thought doesn't get time to settle, because the radio crackles with a call that makes the whole room snap to attention. A patrol unit reports a white panel van abandoned near a service access road off Interstate 91, hazard lights blinking like a heartbeat. The doors are open. No driver in sight. And hanging from the rearview mirror, swaying slightly in the wind, is a bright orange rope coil. Klein's chair scrapes back so hard it screams. Aragon is already running. The case isn't just warm now. It's burning. The van sits half on gravel, half on cracked asphalt, hazard lights ticking in a slow orange pulse, like the vehicle itself is nervous, like it knows what it's carrying in its silence. And the moment Klein steps out of the unmarked sedan, he feels the hair rise on his arms, because this isn't a random abandonment, it's placement, it's staging, it's the killer's handwriting in metal and glass. The service access road runs behind a curtain of scrub trees and dead weeds, a place you'd miss if you weren't looking for it, a place that smells of exhaust and damp earth and the sour hint of something old. State troopers are already forming a perimeter, voices low, hands hovering near holsters, eyes scanning the tree line like the killer might be leaning against a trunk watching them with that calm, muffled patience. Aragon moves around the van in a slow circle, not touching, letting her eyes drink in the details the way Mercer taught her. If you can't see the man, see his choices. The doors are open wide, both front and back, as if someone left in a hurry, but the rest contradicts panic. The van is clean, almost too clean. The floor swept, no fast food wrappers, no tools rattling, no smell of sweat, just disinfectant and plastic, the sterile scent of someone trying to erase the past in advance. The orange rope coil swings from the rearview mirror, absurdly bright against the grey morning, tied with a neat loop, not tossed, not forgotten. A message, loud and juvenile, like a flag planted on enemy territory. Klein holds up a gloved hand to stop a patrol officer who's about to lean in. Nobody touches anything, he says, voice hard, because he can feel the trap in his bones, and he's learned the killer's rhythm. Every time the department lunges, the killer wants them off balance, wants them reacting, wants them stepping on the wrong line. CSI arrives with their cases and their powder and their little numbered tents, but even CSI moves cautiously now, like the city itself has become a crime scene and anything could be wired to explode. Aragon peers into the back of the van and sees the first real shock. The cargo area has been lined with clear plastic sheeting, taped to the walls with those same perfectly straight cuts of duct tape, seams smoothed down as if someone took the time to press out the air bubbles. It looks like a cheap, horrifying version of a clean room, a place designed for one purpose, to contain mess. To prevent evidence from touching the van's skin. To keep blood, hair, fibers, any microscopic confession, trapped and disposable. And on the floor of that plastic-lined space, centered like a ritual object, is a single Polaroid photograph, face down, waiting to be turned over. Klein doesn't pick it up. He nods at the crime scene tech, and the tech slides a thin spatula under the photo like he's lifting a landmine. He flips it with a careful wrist, and the image blooms under the pale light, a parking lot, the same office lot, the same lamp post, the same angle as the first Polaroid, except this time, the lot is empty. Marisol's car is gone. The spaces are vacant. The asphalt looks wet, reflecting streetlight in thin silver streaks. Scratched into the border are two words. Next time. Aragon's stomach drops. Not because it's a direct threat, those come cheap now, but because it's a promise, and promises from this kind of mind aren't tossed out casually. It's the killer telling them he can do it again. That he's rehearsing. That he's not finished. That the city is still his stage. The van gets towed under heavy watch, sealed like a coffin, transported to the state lab where they can strip it down in controlled conditions. In the meantime, Klein stands by the open doors, staring at the plastic lining and imagining Marisol's last minutes in a space like this, the muffled sound of her breath against tape, the scrape of zip ties tightening, the click of a Polaroid shutter capturing her fear as if fear itself is the prize. He feels anger swell behind his ribs, hot, useless, consuming, and he turns away because he can't afford to feed it, not here, not now. Back at the station, the task force's energy spikes into something frantic. The abandoned van is a gift and a warning and a ticking clock all at once. They cross-check it against North Star's fleet inventory. The VIN matches one of their shared units, the very one logged out under Evan Marsh's name on October 12th. The GPS module is ripped out, wires cut clean, not yanked, not sloppy. The killer doesn't just erase, he edits. The fuel tank is nearly full. The mileage on the odometer is higher than it should be for a normal shift pattern. And in the glove compartment, tucked behind a stack of generic insurance papers, the lab finds a receipt from the pharmacy in West Hartford, the one with the clerk's tip, crumpled into a tight wad like someone tried to destroy it but couldn't resist keeping it close. Aragon holds the receipt with tweezers and reads the date, October 10th. 2 days before Marisol vanished. Hydrogen peroxide. Bandages. Polaroid film. Same purchases the clerk described. It's not proof of murder, not yet, but it's proof of preparation, proof of intent. And intent is a door that leads toward guilt. Then the lab calls with the first real chemical whisper from the van's plastic sheeting, microscopic traces of human skin cells caught under a strip of tape, the residue of a gloved hand that wasn't perfect, a tiny imperfection in the killer's control. They run it fast, because urgency is now the only language. The sample is partial, but enough for a profile. They compare it to Marsh's DNA and they can't, not yet, because Marsh's DNA isn't in the system. He has no record. No swab on file. No past arrest to leave him catalogued. The system can't match what it doesn't have. So Klein makes the call he hates making: they need Marsh's family. A familial sample. A relative. Someone whose biology might pull Marsh's shadow into the light. Aragon tracks down the foster care records, digging through paper that smells like old bureaucracy, and discovers Marsh's trail is mostly broken: multiple homes, multiple caseworkers, names changed, addresses that don't exist anymore. The closest thing to family is a half-brother, a man named Tyler Marsh living in Springfield, Massachusetts, who shares a mother but not a childhood. Aragon and a uniformed officer drive there in the afternoon, the highway stretching like a gray ribbon of tension, because every mile feels like time wasted, and time is what the killer uses against them. Tyler answers the door with suspicion already in his posture. He's broad-shouldered, beard untrimmed, a man who looks like he's been disappointed too many times to be polite about it. Evan, he repeats when Aragon says the name. I haven't seen that guy in years. His eyes narrow. What did he do? Aragon doesn't soften it. She can't. We think he may be connected to a homicide, she says, and watches the words hit Tyler like a punch. Tyler laughs once, bitter. Figures, he mutters, then shakes his head as if shaking can dislodge a memory. He was always off. Quiet. Like he was listening to something nobody else could hear. Aragon asks for a DNA sample, explaining it in the clean language of procedure, and Tyler's suspicion hardens into anger. So you can pin it on him, he says, voice rising. You want me to help you frame my brother? Aragon feels the case's paranoia seep into the conversation like poison. She chooses her words carefully. We're trying to confirm whether he's involved, she says. If he's not, this helps clear him. Tyler's laugh is sharper this time. Clear him, he repeats, as if the concept is a joke. He looks past Aragon at the officer, then back. And if he is? Then this helps us stop him, Aragon says. Before there's a next time. The phrase hangs there, and Tyler's face shifts. He glances toward his living room, toward a framed photo on the wall of a little boy with pale hair, foster home Christmas snapshot, and for a second Tyler looks like someone fighting himself. Then he steps aside. Fine, he says. Do it. The swab takes seconds. The weight of it feels like hours. Back in Hartford, the lab processes Tyler's sample with the partial profile from the van. It's not a direct match, familial DNA doesn't work that way, but the algorithm can suggest likelihood, can point like a compass rather than a finger. When the result comes in, the room goes quiet, the kind of quiet that sounds like a building holding its breath. The lab supervisor, voice tight, says, high probability of close biological relation. Aragon feels her pulse spike. Klein closes his eyes for one hard second, not relief, not victory, but grim confirmation that the warmth is real. Evan Marsh isn't just a suspect now. He's a gravitational center. And then, as if the case itself refuses to let them feel any control, dispatch reports another call. A woman. Shaking. Whispering. She says she's a nurse at Hartford Hospital and she found something in the staff parking garage, something taped under a stairwell handrail. She thought it was trash at first, then she saw the white border, the glossy sheen. A Polaroid. Klein and Aragon arrive to a concrete garage that smells like oil and damp cement, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry insects. A security guard leads them to the stairwell, and there, under the metal rail where dozens of hands slide every day, is the photo, held in place with a single strip of duct tape cut clean. Whoever placed it did it fast and quietly, in the middle of a hospital's constant motion, blending into the flow like a drop of ink in water. The tech lifts it. Flips it. The image shows a woman walking toward her car at night. Not Marisol. Another woman. The photo is shot from behind, from above, like a predator's angle, her shoulders slightly hunched, a bag on her arm, keys in her hand, unaware. The timestamp scratched into the border is recent, last night. And beneath it, carved with that same jagged pressure. She looks like her. Aragon's throat tightens. He's hunting a substitute, she murmurs, and the thought is so vile it makes her nauseous. Marisol reduced to a template, a type, a target category. Klein's mind races. Hospital staff parking garage. A place full of women leaving late shifts. A place where a reflective vest wouldn't raise an eyebrow. A place where cameras exist but angles have gaps, where elevators and stairwells provide blind corridors. The killer chose this deliberately. It's not random. It's a warning and a setup. They rush to get the garage footage from last night, but hospital admin drags, protocols, privacy, paperwork, the usual bureaucratic friction that feels obscene in the face of threat. Klein's patience snaps. He leans in, voice low, and says, "If this man takes another woman from your garage, you'll be explaining to her mother why you protected paperwork instead of people." The admin turns pale. The footage is delivered. They watch it in a small security office, eyes on the grainy feed as it cycles through angles. At 9:38 p.m., the woman from the Polaroid appears, walking toward her car. A white van is parked 2 rows over. A figure in a reflective vest steps out, moves casually, like he belongs. He doesn't rush. He doesn't chase. He just shifts position so that when the woman passes, is close enough to speak. The woman pauses. Turns her head. For one frame, her body language changes, the slight stiffening of surprise, the way Marisol did in the parking lot. The figure lifts a hand as if showing a badge or a clipboard. Then the camera glitches for half a second, an electronic stutter that feels impossibly familiar. When it steadies, the woman is still there, but she's moving faster now, almost jogging, head turned as if listening. The figure follows at a normal pace. Not running. Confident. And then they exit the camera's field into a blind corridor between concrete pillars. Klein's jaw clenches until it aches. "He knows our cameras," he says, and the sentence tastes like defeat because it means the killer is studying their infrastructure, mapping their blind spots, choosing his angles with the same care he chooses his duct tape cuts. The footage from another angle catches the figure again briefly, just enough for a clearer look. The vest is reflective. The cap is low. The lower face is covered by a high collar or mask. And on the sleeve, caught in the flicker of fluorescent light, is a rectangular patch. Not North Star. Something else. 2 letters above a small emblem. DPW. Department of Public Works. The kind of uniform that can be anywhere, at any hour, with no questions asked. Aragon feels cold spread through her chest, because now it's bigger than North Star, bigger than one company, bigger than one suspect. Either Evan Marsh is escalating and changing costumes, or someone is deliberately widening the disguise to make every public worker a possible wolf. And then the security guard speaks, voice shaky, pointing at the screen. "I saw that guy," he whispers. "Tonight. Earlier." Klein turns slowly. "Where?" he says. The guard swallows. "On the ground floor," he says. "Near the stairwell." He asked me where the exit was. I told him. He nodded. That's all. Aragon's mind flashes to the present, to the garage's open entrances, to the thousands of cars coming and going, to the fact that while they are watching last night's footage, the killer might be upstairs right now, moving through concrete shadows with a camera in his pocket, deciding which woman will become the next headline. Klein is already out of the chair, already keying his radio, voice cutting through static with a command that carries panic under its control. Lock down the garage. Close exits. Nobody leaves alone. Find him. And as officers flood the concrete levels, boots echoing, flashlights slicing through rows of vehicles, Aragon feels the case pivot into a new phase, no longer just a hunt for answers, but a live chase against a man who is actively selecting his next victim while the city holds its breath. Somewhere above them, a car alarm chirps once and dies. A stairwell door clicks shut softly. And in that vast, humming structure filled with ordinary people who came to work and thought they'd go home, the most terrifying truth settles in: the killer isn't a memory from 2010. He's a presence. He's here. The garage doesn't lock down the way people imagine in movies, with steel gates slamming and villains cornered under a spotlight. It locks down the way real life does: messy, loud, panicked, security guards shouting into radios, nurses clutching their badges like talismans, tires squealing as drivers realize they've been told to stop and they don't understand why, and above it all the fluorescent lights keep buzzing with that dead, insect hum, indifferent to fear. Officers surge up the ramps in pairs, flashlights bouncing across bumpers and concrete pillars, every shadow suddenly suspicious, every reflective strip on a jacket a potential threat. Klein's voice cuts through the chaos over the radio, short, clipped commands, while Aragon moves with her hand near her weapon, heart hammering, eye scanning stairwell doors because stairwells are where people vanish, stairwells are where screams get swallowed. They find the first sign in the most ordinary place, a disposable coffee cup on the floor near the north stairwell, still warm, lid on, a faint lipstick mark on the rim that doesn't belong there because the cup looks like it was held by someone wearing gloves. The cup is a prop, placed too neatly, a breadcrumb made of paper and caffeine. Aragon stares at it, feeling the insult of it, the way the killer keeps leaving little objects like his writing punctuation marks in their panic. A patrol officer leans down too quickly and Klein barks, "Don't touch it," like the words are a slap, and the officer freezes, embarrassed, because everyone is on edge now, everyone is one wrong move away from ruining the only thread that might matter. The security guard keeps pointing, voice cracking, repeating that he spoke to a man in a reflective vest, that the man asked where the exit was, that the man nodded and walked away like a customer. Klein asks him what the man smelled like. The guard blinks, confused. "Smelled like clean," he says finally. Like disinfectant." Aragon's stomach turns. Bleach adjacent again. That chemical cleanliness that tries to scrub guilt into nothing. They sweep the north stairwell first. Door propped open with a wedge of folded cardboard, the kind used for moving boxes. Small detail. Big meaning. Someone planned for quick movement, planned for a silent door. They go down one flight at a time, flashlights cutting across concrete steps and yellow paint lines. No one. Just echoes. Then they reach the ground floor and find another thing taped under the handrail, like a parasite clinging to metal. A Polaroid. Fresh. The duct tape still glossy. Klein looks at Aragon. She nods once. The tech lifts it. Flips it. The photo shows the security office doorway, shot from the corner of the hallway. You can see a guard inside, this same guard, leaning back in his chair. The timestamp scratched into the border, 9:12 p.m. That's tonight. 15 minutes ago. And below it, carved with that same jagged impatience. "Thank you for directions." The guard's face drains of color. His knees wobble like the words knocked his bones loose. Aragon feels her mouth go dry because that means the killer didn't just pass through. He lingered. He watched. He photographed the place where their eyes are supposed to be. He has been in their blind spot while talking to their gatekeeper, and he left the proof like a slap. Klein's gaze flicks to the security camera monitors behind the office window. He steps inside, shoves past the guard gently but firmly, and stares at the screens. Rewind, he snaps. The guard fumbles with the controls, hands shaking, fingers slipping on buttons. The footage jumps back. 9:09, 9:10. 9:11, a man appears on the wide-angle camera at the garage entrance. Reflective vest. Baseball cap. Lower face covered. He walks with the calm gait of someone who belongs, shoulders slightly hunched forward, head tilted like he's listening. He approaches the security office. He speaks. The guard gestures. The man nods. Then, this part is almost theatrical, the man lifts his hand, not waving, just lifting, and for half a second he's looking directly at the camera. Then the feed stutters. Not a glitch from bad wiring. A sudden burst of static, like interference, like someone keyed a signal at exactly the right moment. The image jumps, recovers, jumps again. When it stabilizes, the man is gone. Klein's jaw tightens so hard a muscle ticks near his temple. He's jamming it, he says, voice low with fury. He's carrying something that scrambles the signal. Not impossible. Not even rare in the wrong circles. A cheap jammer can knock out wireless cameras, and hospitals use plenty of wireless systems. The killer doesn't need genius. He needs preparation and nerve. They push out to the ground floor, where the garage opens toward the street. Officers are there, blocking exits, scanning. A nurse stands near her car, crying, phone pressed to her ear, trying to explain to someone why she can't come home yet. A young resident in scrubs keeps looking over his shoulder like he expects a hand to clamp down on his mouth. Everyone feels the predator now. Everyone feels watched. And then a shout erupts from the far corner near the west stairwell. Here, over here. An officer waves. Klein and Aragon sprint, footsteps slapping concrete, flashlights slicing the rows. They arrive to find a man slumped behind a pillar, breathing hard, face pale. Not the killer. A janitor. He's shaken, sweating, eyes wide like saucers. He points with a trembling hand toward a maintenance closet door. He went in there, he whispers. The guy in the vest. He told me there was a leak. He said to get out of the way. Aragon's pulse spikes. Maintenance closet means tools. Means hiding. Means maybe a back passage. Klein signals, 2 officers stack on the door, weapons ready. Klein's voice is a knife. Police. Come out. Hands where we can see them. Silence. Klein nods. The door is yanked open. The closet is small, cramped with mops, buckets, spare light bulbs, coil of hose. No person. Just an open ceiling panel above the back wall, hanging crooked like a mouth left ajar. A faint scuff mark on the metal shelf below, as if someone stepped up with a boot. Dust falling in slow flakes. A route into the building's guts. Up, Klein snaps. One officer climbs onto the shelf, pushes the panel aside, and shines a flashlight into the black above. The beam catches pipes, wiring, a narrow crawl space running along the ceiling line. And then, movement. A shadow sliding away, quick and silent. Go. Klein barks. They scramble. Aragon climbs next, heart pounding in her ears, the air above thick with insulation fibers that itch her throat. The crawl space is tighter than she expects, forcing them to move on elbows and knees, flashlights flickering over pipes that sweat condensation. Every sound is magnified, breathing, fabric scraping, the metallic tick of a badge hitting a pipe. Ahead, something clinks softly, like a tool shifting. Someone is there. Someone is moving. Klein shouts into the dark, voice echoing weirdly in the confined space. Evan Marsh. It's over. No answer. Just the rapid, controlled scrape of someone crawling fast. They follow, adrenaline turning time viscous. The crawl space opens into a wider service corridor above a stairwell landing, and Aragon sees a flash, reflective stripes, a shoulder, then gone through another ceiling hatch. She lunges, fingers brushing fabric, missing by inches, and rage flares in her chest because inches are the difference between headlines and closure, between the city sleeping and the city screaming again. They burst through the hatch into a dim utility room, and the smell hits Aragon like a memory, disinfectant. Bleach sweet. The room is empty except for a rolling cart and a metal sink. But on the sink's edge sits a Polaroid, drying like it was placed a minute ago. Aragon's stomach drops. He had time to leave it. He always has time. She doesn't touch it. Klein's eyes are locked on the back door of the utility room, slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness beyond. He moves slow, listening. The building outside hums with hospital life, distant carts, muffled voices, a pager beep. The killer is slipping through that noise like oil through water. Klein pushes the door open. A service hallway stretches out, lined with beige walls and grey doors, the kind of corridor no visitor ever sees. At the end, an exit sign glows red. The door beneath it swings gently, like it was just used. Klein runs. Aragon runs. Their footfalls are loud now. They are past stealth. They are chasing a ghost that bleeds. They crash through the exit into cold night air behind the hospital, where dumpsters sit and delivery trucks idle. A loading dock opens toward a back access road. And there, already moving away, an old utility truck pulls out, taillights blinking once as it turns the corner. Not a van this time. A city-looking truck, faded paint, the kind you'd never remember. The perfect vehicle to be invisible. Klein raises his radio. Vehicle leaving the loading dock, possible suspect, pursue. His voice is tight, urgent, but the response is a wash of static and confusion, officers scattered, exits blocked, too many moving parts. A patrol car tries to cut in, but the truck is already gone into the city's veins, swallowed by streets and intersections and the infinite places a working vehicle can belong. Aragon stands in the cold behind the hospital, chest heaving, and the feeling is sickeningly familiar, a trail that ends abruptly, like scent cut off at a fence, like Marisol's disappearance distilled into a repeat performance. The killer didn't just escape. He demonstrated escape. He showed them how close he can get to them and still slip away. Back inside the utility room, Klein forces himself to stop running, to breathe, to focus on what was left behind. The Polaroid on the sink is lifted carefully, flipped under a flashlight, and the image blooms, Aragon in the crawl space, captured mid-lunge, arm extended, eyes hard, mouth slightly open in a silent curse. The angle is impossible unless someone behind her took it. Unless there was an accomplice. Unless the killer positioned a camera. Unless he set it on a timer. The timestamp scratched into the border reads 9:18 p.m., and beneath it. So close. Aragon's face burns with a mixture of fury and humiliation. The photo is proof that he watched her miss. That he savored the near grab like a joke. They don't sleep that night. They can't. The department becomes a hive again, maps, lists, calls, 1,000 small pieces of desperation. Klein orders a full sweep of all hospital staff and contractors with DPW access, all vendors with badges, all maintenance workers with keys. The hospital administration looks like they've been punched. They cooperate now with the fear of liability and the fear of a second victim. Badge logs are pulled. Security footage is copied. Visitor lists are checked. But the killer is ahead again. He used a service corridor. He used a jammer. He used a vehicle nobody remembers. He used the truth that in a city, movement is normal, and normal is camouflage. They bring in a tech specialist to analyze the camera stutters. The specialist says it looks like short-range RF interference. Not sophisticated. Effective. The kind of thing you can buy online if you know what to search for. The kind of thing a maintenance worker might justify as testing equipment or blocking noise. The kind of thing that doesn't raise alarms until someone uses it to steal a person. And then the lab calls with the blood result from Marsh's apartment rag. It isn't Marisol's. It belongs to an unknown male. DNA profile not in CODIS. That could mean nothing, cut finger, accident at work. Or it could mean something terrifying, the blood belongs to someone the killer hurt, someone the killer used, someone the killer killed without the city ever noticing because not every missing person becomes a headline. Klein's suspicion of the closet grows sharper. If Marsh is the killer, why is the blood not Marisol's? If Marsh is a pawn, why is his apartment a perfect set? And if the killer is framing him, why choose him? Because he's isolated. Because he's invisible. Because no one will fight for him. Because society loves a neat villain. They finally locate Evan Marsh's current phone by triangulating the brief ping it made when a message was sent, a single data burst like a flare in darkness. The ping places the phone near a wooded rest area off Route 2. Officers swarm the location, floodlights cutting across trees. They find the phone smashed under a rock, screen shattered, battery removed, pieces scattered like bones. Nearby, a reflective vest is draped over a branch like a hanging skin. The North Star patch has been neatly cut off, leaving a clean rectangular scar on the fabric. A utility knife lies in the dirt, blade retracted, wiped so clean it shines. And on the ground beneath it, a Polaroid, face down in damp leaves, protected by the canopy like someone wanted it found but not ruined. Klein flips it. The photo shows a highway at night, blurred taillights, a road stretching forward into darkness. In the bottom of the frame, you can see the edge of a dashboard and a gloved hand on a steering wheel. The border is scratched with a single sentence, the longest yet, carved with slow confidence. You'll chase him while I keep walking. The words hit like a hard truth. A diversion. A decoy. Evan Marsh may be running, but the killer, if this message is to be believed, is using that chase as cover. The city, the media, the department, everyone funneling their attention down one hallway while the real predator slips out another. Aragon feels something cold settle behind her eyes. He wants a split, she says. He wants us hunting a man while he hunts a woman. Mercer's profile comes back into focus, control, narrative, helplessness. This is narrative warfare. This is the offender writing a story where the police are always one step late, always reacting, always starring in his movie. And yet, even with all that, even with the taunts and the staged closets and the abandoned van, the truth refuses to crystallize into certainty. Because nothing, no print, no clean DNA, no clear face on camera, ties Evan Marsh directly to Marisol's body. The blonde hair from the duct tape remains unlinked. The partial prints remain useless. The rope and tape remain common. The Polaroids remain a signature without a hand. And the case, instead of closing, fractures into two nightmares, a missing suspect with a suspicious apartment and a second, unseen mind orchestrating fear. The public doesn't care about nuance. The public wants a name, and they already have one. Evan Marsh becomes the headline villain, his photo blasted on TV, his life excavated by reporters hungry for angles. Neighbors call him creepy. Co-workers retroactively claim they always knew. People in Hartford feel relief because the monster has a face now, and relief is addictive even when it's wrong. Klein doesn't feel relief. He feels hunted. Because the final insult arrives at 4:26 a.m., slipped under the door of his own house while he's at the station, found by his wife when she wakes to get a glass of water. A plain envelope. No stamp. No return address. Inside, a Polaroid of Klein's front porch at night, his mailbox visible, his children's small bicycle leaning against the railing. And scratched into the border, jagged and confident. Go home. When Klein sees it, something inside him goes very still. The killer knows where he lives. The killer knows his family. The killer has crossed the invisible line from case to personal, and that is the moment when a detective stops being a hunter and becomes prey. Hartford doesn't scream when it happens. It holds its breath. And now, holding its breath, it waits to see whether the men chasing shadows will break, whether the city will accept the easy villain, whether Marisol Vega's name will become just another cold case file stamped and shelved, while somewhere, someone with a Polaroid camera and a clean blade keeps walking, keeps watching, and keeps deciding what, next time, will look like.